Testing 1, 2. joining you in just about 10 seconds. Good morning, everybody. I'm John Self. Whether it's morning where you are or the afternoon or evening, welcome to Career Live here on LinkedIn and YouTube. We're glad to have you with us today. We've got a full show lined up and a good rundown, so we hope that you will stay with us. If you have any questions, just drop it in the chat room and we will be happy to get back and answer your questions. We have a great group of questions that have already come in this morning. People kind of don't want to necessarily show up in the chat room, so they send in their information a little bit early. And so there you go. That's happening, and we are glad that you're going to be with us. Today's agenda, we're going to be covering a new study, just briefly, that says some of the big banks, some of the big corporations are saying you must come back to work 5 days a week. And my attitude is, or my response is, good luck with that. There is a new study out called I love this name, it's from the Atlanta Fed and the University of Chicago, the Study of Business Uncertainty. Isn't that a great time? And basically it points out that while JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and the companies of those ilk want people to come into the office 5 days a week, that's not probably going to happen. It may happen for some companies, but the overwhelming preference is now going to be 2 to 3 days a week. Excuse me. My coffee I need to be more careful when I'm sipping coffee. So we're glad to have you. I've been thinking about some of these things. If we're going to have a hybrid situation, there are complaints that, managers are really struggling because they don't think their workers are being productive. Great cartoon going around. The question is, is the work getting done? Yes. Well, then what are you worried about? And so the problem is that it's one of control. And it is absolutely something that plagues a lot of young managers, and we're trying to address that in some curriculum we're putting together. But remote work is going to stay. I think it poses some huge problems with the real estate people. They're talking about the downtown death loop, and what's going to happen to those buildings. And that's a good question. I suspicion that some of them that can be turned into apartments will. In places like New York, there is certainly a shortage of affordable housing. Now, whether developers will make those affordable housing or not remains to be seen. Okay, I'm John Self. I'm a career strategist. I'm a career coach. I help people advance their careers. I help people find better jobs. I do not find them for you. If you want me to find the job, then you better be ready to write a very big check to take that much of my time. But we do provide career coaching and career support in your job search in a very cost-effective manner. A lot of coaches in the outplacement business, or if there's a lot of live interaction, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to $10,000. And then they have this high-ticket offer that may be $15,000 that gives you more support. We do all of our basic coaching about interviewing, resumes, all of that. All of that curriculum is online. And so you deal with me 1 day a week for an hour or more if you need it, and that gets your cost down. So right now, if you are not a member of our Career Community Live, the enrollment fee is $500, $249 a month for 6 months. And people say, what if I find a job earlier? We spread it out over 6 months to make it easier for you financially. If you're looking for a job and you haven't prepared yourself economically for a layoff, we don't want to put too much of an imposition on you. We've got to make a profit here, but we don't want to put an imposition on you of $1,000 a month or whatever. So we spread it out over 6 months. It's a 6-month contract for $249. And if you join our upcoming Your Community Live, network, you will get substantial discounts if you join the Community Live before you sign up for the course. Community Live will be announced right after Labor Day. I'm really excited about that. More in just a minute. Let's talk about the economy. This week, we had a pretty significant decline in the number of available jobs, down to about 8.3 million. And for all of you in management and career executives who are struggling to find a job, understand that a lot of those jobs are in the service sector. They're in the mid-range or lower end of the scale. Yes, there are some good jobs out there, but the competition for those jobs is extremely intense. And you need to be absolutely as prepared as you can be if you're going to be competitive for one of those jobs. Your confidence from the past of just being able to go in because you're a good producer, you're a good executive, you're a good leader, you have a good reputation in your immediate network of friends, that won't be good enough. You have to not only have all of those things, you have to have those things, but you also have to still tell your story, communicate your value in a compelling, meaningful way. And if you think, well, I was a CEO of a $500 million a year business, that ought to be a qualification enough. I mean, I was very successful. I was there for 7 years. It's not enough. There are a lot of people out there who have a lot of great experience. So how do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace? That's part of getting prepped. Now, there are people in the economy who talk about the economy this past week are sounding increasingly concerned about what may happen in the latter part of the fourth quarter. I have a great friend, Peter Piccinini on the East Coast, financial advisor, who is extremely concerned that the Fed has propped up the economy for so long that we're due for an adjustment, we're due for recalibration, and it won't be pretty, and it could be prolonged. And there are others that are sounding the alarm. I mean, if you can cut through all the garbage techno-crud that you hear when you watch Bloomberg or CNBC, and when the analysts are on, this past week, there were several that were increasingly concerned about what was going to happen in the economy. And so my advice has been and continues to be, do not worry about what the economy is going to do, because you can't control it. Nobody can. You have an obligation to yourself and to your family to be prepared. Now, a lot of people say, well, you're just selling coaching. Yes, I am. Absolutely. Guilty as charged. But the research shows that people who get prepared in advance do better in the job search. If they get laid off, they are rebound faster and better than those who start to get ready to go to market after they've gotten that tap on the shoulder that says, goodbye, this is your last day in the office. You no longer work for this company because we're reducing the headcount. So it's really, really important to be prepared. We encourage you to visit our website, check out our communication, our premium Guiding Your Career Academy package. Again, it's $500, $249 a month, and it produces really great results. One value-added feature that we offer that a lot of coaches don't. It's 6 months, but we stay with you until you place, okay? We don't just say, well, gee, Debbie, thanks for the 6 months. It's been nice knowing you. Good luck, and maybe if you need more help, pay us some more money. No, we make a contract with you that's kind of moral and ethical, that we stay with you until you place. So check out our programs. We'd be happy to help you. If you just need help on brushing up on your interviewing skills, check out our mock interview, really affordably priced, and you get a lot of value for your money. So the market developments this past week, I said there's been a pretty big drop. There were 338,000 fewer jobs last month. It's the biggest decline in 2.5 years. There are 8.8 million openings. Okay, you know why? A lot of those are at the mid-level or lower-level service industry. The really good jobs that are hard to find are the higher-end tech gigs and the executive management positions. I think that, really to summarize kind of the opening here, what we have is an economy that is still very unstable. There are a lot of indicators that look good. and we're all keeping our fingers crossed that the economy cruises through 2024 without any interruptions, without any glitches. A major economic downturn in an election year could reelect or elect the wrong person. Now, whoever you like or don't like, that's up to you. But it could be a horrific event for our democracy. So keep an eye on the economy and be informed about what's happening in the legal area and in the political arena. You just need to be up to date. Again, this is not the time to panic. It's the time to get prepared. It's not the time to wring your hands. It's the time to be sure that your financial house is in order and that you are prepared in your job with your job search. As I said a few minutes ago, our Guiding Your Career community project is coming together really nicely. I'm really, really excited about this because it allows us an opportunity to come together weekly and talk about career issues. It provides you opportunity to get access to good speakers, lower cost curriculum. Our Career Live will become part of that event. And so if you want to be involved in Career Live on a regular weekly basis, you'll need to be a member. It's just not going to be a huge membership expensive process. We haven't priced it out yet, but we're working on that now. The bigger the monthly membership, the bigger the discounts on the courses. But that may not be what most people want, so we're really still testing that. So, summarize, look for that information right after Labor Day, okay? Now, let's turn to some questions. I've got about 15 or 16 minutes left here. I just got fired. I did not get along with my boss. He was inexperienced but was pretty authoritarian. When I tried to offer suggestions, he became defensive and petty. How do I handle this in my job search? Well, that you got fired is what it is. Now, if you go in and do a compelling job communicating your value, and you get to that point and they ask you, are you no longer with that company? You say, no, I left the company. And the short story, and then briefly say, I had an inexperienced boss who did not want any suggestions and could be very authoritarian and spark to anger, and it just didn't work out. And I tried to kind of fit in. I tried to work with him, but he was not having it, and so he asked me to leave the organization. I can assure you that my communication with him was always positive. I was concerned and committed for his success, and I think my references will point out that I was of added value to the organization. An answer, something like that. You don't have to necessarily say, "Hey, I got fired." But you do need to be honest about the dates of employment on your resume. That's very, very important. Okay. One of my best and most loyal references is not very familiar with my recent accomplishments. How do I handle this? Two ways. Get another reference, or two is to sit down with that reference and provide them a briefing memorandum to talk about your various accomplishments and brief them. Because if they know you, if they like you, if they've seen you in action in the business but just aren't familiar with your accomplishments, you can handle that with a briefing memo. You can handle that with a phone call prior to the reference calls and remind them, give them some talking points. But if they do not have any experience and don't really have firsthand knowledge of how you handle yourself in your job, then don't use that person as a reference. If a reference goes and answers two or three basic core questions about your performance with, I don't know, I don't have any experience with that individual, that becomes a negative reference and it will not help you. Matter of fact, it probably will hurt you. So, to summarize, if the reference knows you and is basically familiar with your performance and has a high view of how you performed in the company, but just lacks specific information, it is not ethical. Matter of fact, it's very smart for you to go in and provide them with a briefing memo on the front end. Do not wait till you get into a job search and then suddenly have to scramble to get your references together. Do that before you go to market. Let's see. This weekend, This weekend is on the way. I love Fridays and Saturdays, but Sunday nights are terrible. Instead of enjoying my family, I dread work on Monday and dealing with my micromanaging, arrogant boss. Boy, there must be a lot of those out there. My wife loves where we live, but I can't replicate my income here. I pray that something will change. What do you think I should do? I think you and your wife need to have a big-time discussion. Now, I don't want to get in the middle of a personal relationship, but I think it's really, really important for you to, for her to understand the realities. You can stay in that position and take a job where you commute. Let me tell you something. If you've never done that before, it can work, but it can be exhausting. And you won't come home every weekend unless you have a lot of extra money laying around, because air travel is expensive and air travel is a pain in the butt. Airlines haven't provided really great service since before deregulation. I've traveled extensively in my life. My professional career since not in the mid-70s until the time I retired in 27, until I got out of executive recruiting in 2017. And so I can tell you it's really a pain. It's not gotten any better. In the domestic airlines, even when Continental was around, they were probably the best domestic airline. Delta has a good reputation, but there are a lot of airlines that are just pretty crappy, and they treat you pretty badly. American just got fined $4 million for keeping people on the plane when there was a weather disruption, and it was a mess, and they wouldn't let the passengers get off the plane, and so they paid a pretty big fine. That's just craziness. But let's go back to the question. You can move around the country and take interim jobs and maybe work 6 or 8 weeks or 6 months or 4 months here and do a job. The rule there is you get to go home every other weekend, and they'll pay your way to go home. However, and they'll pay for living expenses. If you take full-time employment, you might be able to negotiate a living allowance if they are agreeable to allow you to commute to work. But I will tell you, if the goal, your wife, is to kind of keep the family together, keep your kids happy because they're in a community that they're really happy, the trade-off is going to be you are not going to be there for a lot of important events in their lives. Okay? So everybody needs to sit down and talk about this, and your kids need to be involved. If they're teenagers, or if they're 10 or 11 years old, where they kind of can understand what the heck's going on, you need to bring them into the conversation. You need to reassure them that everything's going to be fine, but they need to understand that if you're going to commute, you're not going to be around for big parts of their life. Now, kids may say, well, that's okay, Dad or Mom. We'll figure it all out. But you need to have that conversation, because doing the commute sounds really good. But when you get into it, and on a Thursday night or Friday, and you're trying to get home for a short weekend visit, and you're stuck in an airport because of thunderstorms or snowstorms or air traffic control issues or whatever, it can be one of the most frustrating types of experiences that you can go through. What is the best way to sort the attire for an upcoming interview? That's a common question. I think we've dealt with that the last couple of weeks. Let me tell you this. What business casual is kind of predominating, and I've always been in an industry was coat and tie healthcare, although that's changing some in the for-profit industry. Let me say this. When they're setting you up for an interview, whether it's video or whether it's face-to-face, it's really important to understand that. So you ask the recruiter. If the recruiter's hesitant, or if they don't know, if you think they're BSing you, yes, that happens, then you need to call, and if the person that you're going to be dealing with, or if there's an executive assistant involved, introduce yourself and just ask that question. Call in the main number of the organization and ask for Mr. So-and-so's office. And if he answers the phone, just say, I just want to call and introduce myself. I'm going to be being interviewed. I just wanted to know, what your style, what your business dress standards were, because I want to be respectful of your company. It says a lot. But generally, you can get that information from an executive assistant and hopefully an internal recruiter. Okay. If they say that it is slacks and golf shirts, that the people interviewing you will be dressed with slacks and golf shirts, great. Slack, golf shirt, and a blazer. If you're a woman, go one step up. If you're wearing slacks and a nice blouse, if you have a blazer, wear a blazer. Just go one step up from what everybody else is. Don't go in, full business attire, tie, all that other stuff. If it's a business casual, that can be kind of off-putting. So just be sensitive to that. I'm deeply unhappy with my job. What should I do? Okay. With a lot of uncertainty in the economy, I think a lot of people are getting really uncomfortable with their work. You need to start looking for a job. If you're unhappy, the last time I looked, you get one shot in life. You spend 75% of your waking hours at the office. Why would you want to do that to yourself? Why would you want to be unhappy at work? So if you can make a change, you live in a big city like a Houston or Chicago, New York, or one of the bigger metropolitan areas, and you can find a good job that pays comparable wage and make that transition, then do it. If you have to relocate for the community, that's a big time, kind of tough, gnarly family issue. But you don't want to go through your life and be unhappy. Let's see, the weekly jobs numbers just came up, and let's see what it says here. Okay, it dropped off. I'm going to see if I can bring it up real quick. U.S. jobs rates, the jobless claims were 228,000 new filed for new unemployment benefits. I'm looking around my studio mic. During the week ending August 28th, a decreased in 4,000 from the last week's revised level. Overall, jobless claims have been holding within the typical range this year. 1.7 million workers continue to claim unemployment benefits. So that's just adds to the whole discussion that we've been having, that the economy is uncertain and people need to be prepared. You can't say, well, I'll figure it out if I get laid off. I've always been pretty lucky. Nah, don't go that route. So decent jobless numbers today, so we'll hopefully that will we will continue moving forward, and that we won't slip into a deeper recession that some people are now predicting. How can I anticipate questions for an upcoming job interview? That's a great question. And I will tell you that a lot of people say, how do you, that's a common thing. Oh my God, I couldn't get prepared because you don't ever know what they're going to ask you. Yes, you do. Look at the job summary. What's really important? What jumps off the page in that job summary? That's going to be an area that will probably come up. Now, here's a way to anticipate questions. Number one, we have a downloadable form called Core and Categorical Questions. Core questions are the behavior and value questions. Categorical questions are those questions that are designed for, like metrics. How many days in accounts receivable did you have? What was your turnover rate? What was your employee satisfaction, your customer satisfaction survey numbers? Those are all categorical questions. They're where they're looking for specific information. So let's talk about this. Every job can be broken down into 3, 4, or 5, or 6 categories, from operations to human resources, to sales and marketing, to governance, all of those things. Break it down. Even if you don't work for a governing board, you still have a governance issue, and that is reporting to your boss. So break it down, and in each category, this form shows you how to do it. You list your strengths and your weaknesses, the 3 or 4 strengths, 3 or 4 weaknesses. Be prepared to have good positive answers on your weaknesses, and be prepared on your strengths to have some examples that you can show, very, very succinct examples, so you can cover a maximum amount of information, especially in a telephone interview, which is by definition 30 to 40 minutes in length. And so you can't get into a rambling answer. So I struggle on telephone interviews. Anyway, in each category, do that. In each category, if there's an issue that you have had in the past that you are not really pleased with, something bad happened, you made a mistake, there was a decline in revenue, and you just, rather than not talk about it, be prepared to talk about it. Now, what will that do? They're going to ask you the question? The odds are no, they won't. Okay? The odds are, it's a higher odd to say, what are your weaknesses? Okay? And you can be ready for that and pivot, acknowledge what a weakness is, but quickly pivot and talk about how you've built that up, and that that's something that you monitor, but it's no longer what you consider a weakness. Pivot on the negatives quickly. Don't try to act like you don't have any weaknesses. Don't try to change the subject. As a recruiter, I can tell you that pisses me off no end, and so you don't want to do that. Just be honest. Acknowledge the issue, because we all have weaknesses, and then pivot. Okay, also in that, on each category, write down questions that if you were doing the interview, you would ask. That will help you. You may get only 1 or 2 of the 20 that you write, but you know what? You're going to go into that interview feeling prepared. Whether it's covering that negative, oh my God, I hope they don't have to ask about this, to you know your strengths, you know what examples you're going to use that tie to that job summary, that address their needs. You want to be sure that that's what your examples do. That will make you more confident. It will make you more self-aware. You know, teachers say that in final exams, students are usually so nervous sometimes that they make mistakes in answering questions because they know the answer, but they're nervous and they're impatient and they're rushing. And they say, you know, when a student comes in and they're really prepared, they kind of take a minute and scan through the questions, and then you can always tell the ones that are really prepared, they sort of look up and smile. Okay? And you know what that smile is? It's confidence, it's self-awareness. Do you know one of the greatest things you can have for you in an interview is confidence and self-awareness. So the core and categorical can help you do that. If you use our mock interview, which is I think $149, you get 2 sessions with me and a lot of feedback, and we will help you. That's probably a great way to get prepared, or a great way to brush up on your interviewing skills without taking a more expensive course. So check that out at johngself.com. There's a little ribbon on the right side of our homepage, enter guiding the GYC Academy. Click that button, and that will take you to the course page. Scroll through. It's little numbers at the bottom of each page. That'll take you to the next page, or go on our home page to the bottom of the page and hit the button that says Get Access, and it'll take you to our course catalog page, which is it's a different URL, but it is a secure site, and it's part of our operation. I just landed a new job. When should I begin thinking about my next job? As soon as you land your current job. You don't want to sit around and be reactive in your career. You want to have, in today's environment, with all the automation, with all of the competition, you must start thinking about your next step. And even if your next step is just a promotion within the company, you're always thinking about building a stronger career network, building strong relationships within that company. If there are some bad times in the future, you know who will sometimes be the first people identified to be laid off? It's those people who have trouble getting along, and nobody comes to their defense about, gosh, we can't live without that person. Okay? When people get laid off, they picked the person over somebody else. So build a strong network. Build a reputation of ethics and integrity, of helping other people and of delivering results. And that's probably the best protection against a layoff, but you need to start doing that day one, whether that's going to carry you into that company for the foreseeable future, or that you're going to be there 3 to 5 years and then step up to the next level in your career plan. Start the day you come in. Okay. I'm unhappy with my life. I think it all revises around my career. What advice can you share? That's from Sherry. She actually gave us her name. Great, Sherry. I think that because we spend so much of our time at work, if you're not happy at work, it's really hard to be unhappy and to be happy at home. So I think that's something that you want to consider. My friend Gay Gaddis, who was a brilliant advertising executive and ran the largest, she was the CEO, founder of the largest woman-owned advertising agency in the United States, T3, that was based in Austin with offices in San Francisco, New York, and some other places. Gay Gaddis wrote a great book about cowgirls in the United States and what great individuals they are. But Gay's advice, and it's a great book, especially if you have a daughter entering the workplace. It's a great book for as a gift. Gay says that the key to work-life balance is be happy at home and happy at your work, okay? Because it's not a time issue. There are times that your job's going to absolutely require more of your time and effort, emotional energy, and your family needs to understand that. And there's times in your life that your family's going to really need you, and your business, your company, should understand that. And so when you're asking when you're asking about a company's culture, that's a question that you might want to throw in. If you're unhappy with your life and you're unhappy, it's very difficult to be happy with your job. So if it's a life issue, then you need to resolve that as quickly as possible, because it will affect your work performance. I'm starting my career in healthcare. My dream is to lead a health system. What can I do to achieve this goal? So many others talk about it, but after 10 years, they seem to be just running a smaller community hospital someplace. All right, I'm going to wrap up with this question today. If you have a plan, and you write it down, you stand a much, much better chance of achieving your goal. Matthew McConaughey, a great Texas actor, Uvalde native who grew up in my neighboring Longview, Texas, once said that it's a contract with yourself. He's been journaling for 35 years, and he writes down his plans, his goals. And one of the things that was really important in his life is to be a dad, a good dad, and his faith. And that's really important. That you write these things down, that you talk about your goals, and then you back up. You reverse engineer your career to say, okay, I want to be a health system CEO. What steps do I have to take between today and the time I realize that goal? What credentials will I need? Probably you would need to be a fellow in the American College. So that takes some study and preparation. It's easier to do it now than it used to be when I came into healthcare. But that is probably going to be a gold standard for advancing. But you also need to say, okay, I want to be a health system CEO, so how do I get myself positioned with recruiters, in the industry, to become that person that is considered? And part of the deal is you got to perform every step at every level. Number two, you need to have a very definite plan for the next job, and increasing responsibility and increasing scope of responsibility, and then you got to nail the performance at every level. That's called a career plan, and it starts off with the end. You begin at the end. Where do you want to be? What do you want people to be saying about you? What part of the country do you want to be in? Put that down, and then back everything up from that. Reverse engineer your career. If you want to be a health system CEO, that is the best way, assuming you've got the skills and you're willing to put in the hard work and the sacrifice. And if you haven't gotten married yet, but you're planning on getting married, your career plan must be part of your relationship development, your relationship premarital conversation, because that can be really problematic if you don't. Hey, listen, I hope this has been helpful today. We're running over. We always do. It's 8:05 Central Time. I'm John Self. I hope you'll come back next Thursday, 7:30 a.m. on LinkedIn and YouTube for Career Live. And we're going to be doing some more stuff to kind of help you with your career. And if you have questions and want some free help, just go to the web page at johngself.com. Go to the bottom hit the button that says Talk to John, and you can schedule a free, no obligation, no sales pitch call with me to talk about your career and how we might be of help to you, or where you can get resources. And if I'm not the best person for you, I'm going to point you in the right direction. We are here to help. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day and a great Labor Day weekend. See you next Thursday morning.